السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين وحجة رب العالمين، المنتجب في الميثاق المصطفى في الضلال المطهر من كل آفة، البريء من كل عيب، المؤمل للنجاة المرتجى للشفاعة المفوض إليه دين الله. قال عبد الله بن فضيل الهاشمي قال الإمام الصادق عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام: لا بد من غيبة لصاحب الأمر بشكل يقع في معها الناس في الشك. فقلت: لماذا؟ قال: لست مأذونا ببيان السبب. فقلت: وما الحكمة فيها؟ فقال: نفس الحكمة الموجودة في غيبة الحجج السابقين موجودة في غيبته، لكن حكمته لا تظهر إلا بعد ظهوره، كما أن حكمة إغراق السفينة وقتل الغلام وإصلاح الجدار على يد الخضر عليه السلام لم تتضح لموسى عليه السلام إلا عندما فارق الخضر. يا ابن فضيل، إن أمر الغيبة سر من أسرار الله، وغيب من الغيوب الإلهية، ولأننا نعتقد بأن الله حكيم، فعلينا أن نعترف بأن أفعاله تصدر عن حكمة، وأن كانت خافية علينا. When it comes to the topic of Imam Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hassan alayhi afdal salati wassalam, we have many books that go into detailed ahadith narrations about the Imam and from the Imam himself, showing us the pathway in the time of the major occultation. Major occultation, the time that we are right now living in, the time of the ghaibah of the Imam, has been mentioned in the books of ahadith many times. For example, there is a hadith of Imam al-Baqir alayhi afdal salati wassalam, our fifth Imam, that Imam al-Baqir said in his hadith: لو أن الشيعة ثبتوا على ولاية القائم في زمان غيبته, if the Shia of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdal salati wassalam, ثبتوا means they stay steadfast, they stay firm on that wilayah, the ajr that they receive is the ajr, the reward of 1,000 martyrs of Badr and Hunayn. Allah Azza wa Jal أعطاهم الله أجر ألف شهيد من بدر وحنين. In the time of what? In the time of occultation. This hadith that I just recited from Abdullah bin Fudayl al-Hashimi, one of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq, that he said, I heard Imam al-Sadiq saying, لا بد من غيبة لصاحب الأمر. There has to be this غيبة, is what? This occultation. بشكل يقع معها الناس في الشك. People, they started to go astray, or they have shak, they have doubts. فقلت لماذا? Why? Why is this happening? Why we don't just have Imam after Imam after Imam, Wali after Wali after Wali, that we see them, we talk to them physically, we can shake their hands, hug them, and asked him questions and all sorts of things that happened in the time before Imam al-Hujjah. The Imam said to him, Imam al-Sadiq, in reply to his question, لماذا, why? The Imam said to him, لست مأذونا ببيان السبب. I can't tell you why, of the secret of this. I haven't been given the permission to tell you of the sabab, of the reason of this major occultation. Then he asked him, وَمَا الْحِكْمَةُ فِيهَا? Then what's the wisdom of this? Why is this happening, of that occultation? The Imam said, of the occultation, the Imam said to him, نفس الحكمة الموجودة في غيبة الحجج السابقين موجودة في غيبته. The same hikmah that was in the occultation of other hujjaj before Imam al-Hujjah alayhi afdalu salati wassalam, it's also resided in the major occultation of Imam al-Hujjah. لكن حكمته لا تظهر إلا بعد ظهوره. But the hikmah itself will not show itself but until he reappears, he comes back. And the Imam here gives us an example. He says, كما أن حكمة إغراق السفينة وقتل الغلام وإصلاح الجدار على يد خضر. There is a story in the book, in the Quran al-Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of Khidr and Musa. Khidr and Musa. Musa ibn Imran is one of the Anbiya, one of the prophets of Ulul Azm. Musa Kalimullah, very high ranking prophet, an elite of the prophets. When he accompanied Khidr, and we have some narrations about Khidr. In Quran al-Kareem, Allah refers to him as Abdun Salih, Abd Salih. Now Khidr himself, we have narration, one that says Khidr drank from the water of eternity, Ma'ul Hayat. And he's still alive, and he will appear, he will come with Imam al-Hujjah. One of the people that comes with Imam al-Hujjah ibn al-Hassan alayhi afdalu salati wassalam is Khidr. Alongside with Khidr is, of course, Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, peace be upon him. And there are others that have been mentioned in the books of narration. Khidr, when he accompanied Musa ibn Imran, when he was with Musa, the three things that Khidr did, Musa did not know about the reason behind it. One was when Khidr suddenly started to break down the boat or the ship that they were on it, going from one place to the other. Suddenly Khidr stood up, he took the axe and he started breaking down the ship. The boat that was Khidr doing that to, Musa ibn Imran said to him, why are you doing this? This belongs to some poor fisherman, this person, that person. This is the only way they can make a living. Khidr said to him, if you want to be with me, if you want to accompany me, be quiet, don't ask me questions. He said, okay, no problem. And this is in the Quran al-Kareem. I'm not going to ask you any questions after this. Again, there was another incident that happened, and that was Qatlul Ghulam. Khidr killed a ghulam, a young lad. Musa said to him, why? You're killing an innocent young man. Khidr looked at him and he said to him, didn't I tell you not to talk? I said to you, don't ask me question. Khidr saying that to Musa ibn Imran. Musa Kalimullah. The same Musa that was in the time of Pharaoh, and he split the sea, and he was in time of the Israelites, all of that. This Musa. He said to him, be quiet, don't ask question. Musa again said, okay, next time if I ask a question, هذا فراق بيني وبينك. I go my way, you go your way. There was an incident of the jidar, of the wall. Here, Khidr again, he started out of nowhere, just out of blue we say. He got up, he started building this jidar, and then Musa said to him, why don't you go to the village nearby here and ask the person who this belongs to, ask them for some reward, some money. To which he said to him, what? هذا فراق بيني وبينك. That's it. I told you not to ask questions, but you've been asking questions, everything I do, you ask me questions. And he told him of the reasons, 1, 2, 3, and this itself needs a whole lecture. There are many things that are top secrets. They're not for me and you to understand. There are secrets behind them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this to some of the awliya Allah. He doesn't reveal it to others. For example, that we have a hadith that says, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, his status in spiritual way and understanding of religion was way different than Salman al-Muhammadi. You can't come and compare the two. One is different than the other. Yes, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but understanding of the secrets, understanding the reasons. One of them is this major occultation. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says the same secrets that Musa ibn Imran did not know about this and that, these three things, is the same applies to this major occultation that people, they don't understand, they don't get it, they don't know the reason behind it. So, and he said, على يد الخضر عليه السلام لم تتضح لموسى إلا عندما فارق الخضر. Musa didn't know what's going on, and he's one of the elites, as I mentioned, one of ulul azm. He said, I don't know. And he said to him, this is why I broke down the boat, this is why I killed the young man, this is why I did this. Oh, really? There are reasons behind it. So, and then the Imam says, يا ابن فضيل إن أمر الغيبة سر من أسرار الله. With this major occultation of Imam al-Hujjah alayhi afdalu salati wassalam, there is a sir, it's a secret. And it's a secret of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وغيب من الغيوب الإلهية. So, this ghaib, this secret. Now, what's my role here? First thing first, we should understand the importance of knowing about the Imam of our time. من لم يعرف إمام زمانه مات ميتة جاهلية. We know of this hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. There are many books, alhamdulillah, that we have the narrations of ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, that they talk about Imam al-Hujjah alayhi afdalu salati wassalam. And I come to the first one from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and the second one from Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because of the time, we see how many we can cover. And you see the beauty of this ahadith. This is talking about Imam al-Hujjah, Hujjah ibn al-Hassan al-Mahdi salamullah alayhi, the Imam that we are waiting for him to reappear, for him to come back. So for me to learn of my Imam, of our Imam, it's a necessity. I have to know of my Imam. Now, when it comes to anything else, we learn to the brinks of it. We come and learn from the tip to all the way down. But when it comes to something this important, and that's ma'rifah of the Imam, we neglect that. We don't go after learning about the Imam. So, for example, you have the book of Asr al-Dhuhur for Shaykh al-Qurani. In that book, of course, he goes and talks about alamat al-Dhuhur and such and such and such. You can see that book, you can download it from online, PDF version, and you can read page by page. There is a book from Kamil Sulaiman, Yawm al-Khalas, a beauty. I recited this book maybe 2 times. I went through it. Beautiful book. There is a book from Sayyid Muhammad Kadhim al-Qazwini, rahmatullah alayh. The book is called Al-Mahdi min al-Mahdi ila al-Dhuhur. He has a whole series of books, Sayyid Muhammad Kadhim al-Qazwini, rahmatullah alayh. He was the one who came to Australia, and he was one of the ulama that had a hand in building Al-Zahra Mosque in Ancliffe, Sayyid Muhammad Kadhim al-Qazwini. And he's a relative of ours. He wrote many books, a whole series of books, Al-Zahra min al-Mahdi ila al-Lahd, and he wrote about Imam al-Sadiq, and one of them is this one, Al-Mahdi min al-Mahdi ila al-Dhuhur. In that book, he mentions the whole 14 ma'sumin and the ahadith from them, talking about Imam al-Hujjah, alayhi afdalu salati wassalam. And the reason behind this, the importance of it, is that you understand this is an important event that will happen. And all 14 ma'sumin, they talk about it. When I say 14 ma'sumin, even the Imam himself, he talks about his coming and the obligations and the wadha'if, the roles that he plays and you play. So this is an important part of that. One of the ahadith that I wanted to mention, that one of our roles, of course, here that we have to look at is the wazifa. We have many wazaif. One of our roles, and I have compiled all of them into 20. There are 20 wazaif. I'm going through them in my Salat al-Jum'ah in other centers, one after the other. It's very important that we understand what's my role, what's my responsibility. The Imam knows his responsibility. The Imam knows when he has to come. The Imam knows what he has to do. That's him. He knows that. But what about me, a Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdalu salati wassalam? The first responsibility that is bestowed on us is ma'rifatul Imam, knowing the Imam. And I'm not talking just about knowing the name of the Imam, knowing about his father, his mother. And unfortunately, some people even lack when it comes to that. They don't know. They have no idea. But when it comes to, for example, the World Cup, people know about the football World Cup. When I say the World Cup, I don't mean the cricket one. I mean the football World Cup. They know about the teams. They know about the players and such and such and such. But when it comes to Imam al-Hujjah, you see the ma'rifah is we call it sathi. It's very basic. It just touches the surface. And that's very unfortunate because you believe in an Imam of your time. You follow this Imam, yet there's not much going there. It has to be what? This ilm has to increase every now and then. That is why we recite, there is a dua, we say, Allahumma arrafni nafsak, fa innaka in lam tu'arrifni nafsak, lam a'rif nabiyyak. Allahumma arrafni rasulaka, fa innaka in lam tu'arrifni rasulaka, lam a'rif hujjatak. اللهم عرفني حجتك فإنك إن لم تعرفني حجتك ضللت عن ديني. That if I don't know my hujjah, my imam, ضللت عن ديني. I got astray. Now let's talk about this beautiful hadith. And this falls down to the second responsibility, and that is to stay firm on belief of Imam al-Hujjah. To stay believing in the Imam, having the faith, having the belief. And might say, what do you mean, Sayyid? If you go right now to YouTube and you type down Imam al-Hujjah, Imam al-Mahdi, English, Farsi, Arabic, you see some people calling themselves scholars. They come and they question the very existence of Imam al-Hujjah alayhi salatu wassalam. One of them is this man, I don't want to mention his name, he's in London. Unfortunately, he calls himself a Shia scholar, and he comes and he even questions the existence of the Imam and even the birth of the Imam. The Imam wasn't even born, and it's all like ukthuba, he calls it. It's all a lie. So this person has fallen down from the wagon, and he has gone astray. There is a hadith from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari alayhi Radwanullah ta'ala alayh, that he said, when the ayah came, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, لما أنزل الله عز وجل على نبيه يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم قلت لرسول الله يا رسول الله عرفنا الله ورسوله. We know Allah. You told us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know the Prophet of God. فَمَنْ أُولِي الْأَمْرِ الَّذِينَ قَرَنَ اللَّهُ طَاعَتَهُمْ بِطَاعَتِكَ. So here basically is saying, who are the Imams? So we know God, and we know the Prophet. But who are these أُولِي الْأَمْرِ? Who are these people? The Imams that come after you. قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he said to Jabir, Hum khulafai ya Jabir. They're my vicegerents. They're my khulafa. They come after me. They succeed me. So who are these people? وَأَمَّةُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ بَعْدِي. أولهم علي ibn Abi Talib. The first one is Ali ibn Abi Talib. ثم الحسن ثم الحسين ثم علي ibn al-Husayn ثم محمد ibn Ali al-Baqir. To here the Prophet stops and he says to Jabir, you will see al-Baqir, you see the Imam al-Baqir, the fifth of the Imams, and convey my salam to the Imam. Who named him Al-Baqir? Who gave him that Al-Baqir? Imam alayhi afdalus salati wassalam was given this name before his birth, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And then the Prophet continued. He said, after Baqir is Fulan, after Imam al-Sadiq is this and this and this, until he came to this part. He says, ila qawlihi, until he came to who? Imam al-Hujjat ibn al-Hassan alayhi afdalus salati wassalam. The Prophet said, thumma samiyyi, then the one that has my name. Who has the Prophet's name? Rasulullah's name. Who? Imam al-Hujjah. Thumma samiyyi wa kaniyyi. He has my name and he has my kunyah. The name of Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. Wa kaniyyi. And what's the kunyah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam? Abu al-Qasim. Ahsantum. So Abu al-Qasim. So he said, he has my name and he has my kunyah. And then the Prophet continued. This is a beautiful hadith. He says, وَكَنِيِّ حُجَّةُ اللَّهِ فِي أَرْضِهِ وَبَقِيَّتَهُ فِي عِبَادِهِ ابن الحسن بن علي ذلك الذي يفتح الله تعالى ذكره على يده مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. Because we have ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. Yes? So when the Imam comes, he has to restore justice for all mankind, for all the earth that we live in. So not just one part and leaves the other part. Everywhere. ذلك الذي يغيب عن شيعته وأوليائه غيب لا يثبت فيها على القول بإمامته إلا من امتحن الله قلبه للإيمان. You understand? امتحن الله. Allah examines these hearts to see which one stays on the right path, which one goes to the wrong path. And then فقال جابر يا رسول الله فهل ينتفع الشيعة به في غيبته? What does the Shia benefit from this in the time of occultation? How can they benefit from him? They don't see him. The Prophet gives us this example and he says فقال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إي والذي بعثني بالنبوة إنهم لينتفعون به يستضيئون بنور ولايته في غيبته كانتفاع الناس بالشمس. Shams, sun. The Prophet is giving the example and is saying, Imam al-Hujjah, you can say he's like the sun. How the sun shines on you and you benefit from it. Yes? Now you might say, what about the clouds? The Prophet here says, وَإِن جَلَّ لَهَا السِّحَابِ. Even if the clouds come, but the clouds go. They come for a moment and they go. But the sun always shines. He's giving that example. يا جابر هذا مكنون سر الله ومخزون علمه فأكتمه إلا عن أهله. So this is a sir, this is a secret. Only the right people should know this. Not everyone can take this to the heart. Not everyone can understand this. Why? Because you have, of course, the other side, you have the Antichrist, the Dajjal. We call him the Dajjal, but if you go to the Christian scriptures, they refer to him as the Antichrist. Now, who's the Antichrist? When you see, of course, the hadith talking about Imam Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hassan al-Mahdi alayhi afdalu salati was-salam and Amir al-Mu'mineen, there is a lengthy hadith, beautiful hadith in that book that I mentioned from Sayyid Muhammad Kadhim al-Qazwini, al-Mahdi min al-Mahdi ila al-Dhuhur. He mentions about how the city, you see the towers rising, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you see before the time that the Imam comes, everything is wiped out. And unfortunately, man is satisfied with man and female is satisfied with female. And you understand what this means, the adults, yes? And it goes into many, many other descriptions of what's going to happen or it already happened. For example, it talks about the kingdom of the Umayyads, the Bani Umayyad kingdom. The Umayyads, how much they ruled and they vanquished, they left. And then after them came who? The Abbasides. How the Abbasides ruled for that many years, and who came and beat them? Of course, it was the Mughal. Yes, and the Imam talks about their army and all of that. He even mentions the Dajjal. Who is the Dajjal the Imam talks about? The Antichrist, the one who has 3 eyes. The Imam says, one here, and one right on the forehead. I'll come to that in a minute. And he's one of the sons of Bani Israel. His mother is a Yahudiya. His mother is a Yahudiya, is a Jew. And his food is the size or the portion of a mountain, the Imam says. A mountain. And you might say, that's how much he eats? We'll come to that in a minute. And the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam mentions his hitaf, what he chants, what he says, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. Who says that? Dajjal. Now, a person can come bring this Dajjal, the Antichrist, and they even made a TV show, Netflix, I think 2 years ago maybe, the Messiah. And there was people talking about the Messiah, the Dajjal, the Antichrist, and who's that person is, and fulan and fulan. So how could he have 3 eyes? How can this person eat that much of food? He comes to that. He says, it's not always necessary a person that the Imam is talking about. It can be many things that happen, that this happens, and we call it the Dajjal, the Antichrist. And they give an example, Shahid Athani, he gives an example of Hollywood. He gives that example. He says Hollywood is controlled. If you go and read about Hollywood, it's seven studios, 7 different studios that are in control of Hollywood. 80% of content that comes out, they're all produced in the United States by Hollywood. And if you go look into the people, the founders of Hollywood, they are all Jews. And on top of that, the founders of Marvel, Jews. Founders of DC, Jews. Founders of Netflix, Jews. Founders of Amazon, Jews. And you go all of that. So the Antichrist can be that. And when it says the mountain is their food, mountain can be here referred to as how much they need, how much they spend on producing these amounts of materials, this amount of movies coming out every year. What do you think they come out? And if you look at them, if you look at any movies that are coming out in, let's say, 10 or 20 years, just take all of the 10 or 20 years, break them down. If you look at it, action and nudity, these 2 things combined together, working hand in hand, it becomes what? Interesting to watch. Beyond that, nothing. There's no message. There's nothing into it. It's just action and the other one, violence, and there is the other part of it as well. And when they 2 combine, they all 2 come working hand in hand, complement one another, what happens? You have what? Entertainment. You have entertainment. And that's the problem there. That is why they say whoever stays on this right path has the reward of who? Has the reward of the shuhada of Badr. Badr and where? And Hunayn. 1,000 shuhada of Badr and Hunayn. That's the first of them that we mentioned. This hadith is from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam about Imam al-Hujjah. The other hadith is from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi afdhalu salati wa salam. We have even a narration that says Imam Ali, he wrote down to Muawiyah. He wrote down to Muawiyah, "Oh Muawiyah, a day comes that my son, one of my sons, will fight one of your sons. And let's see who's going to be victorious." Referring to Imam al-Hujjah alayhi afdhalu salati wa salam, fighting off the who? The Sufyani. Because the Sufyani, he's one of the great grandsons of Muawiyah al-Maqbur. So there are many ahadith when it comes to that part of it. One of them is this. قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام للقائم منا غيبة. أمدها طويل. So the length of it, the time of it is طويل. Now here I was concerned when I read this, when it says the timing is very lengthy. Are we really lived that time, or is it more to come? Because just think of it for a minute. If the ghaiba, the major occultation, takes another 1,000 years, maybe another 2,000, another 3,000, we don't know, because we don't know when the Imam is coming back. So the Imam here says, the timing of this major occultation is lengthy, tawil. Now if you look at our life today in the Western society, in the Western countries, 1 year ago is way different than today, isn't it? Every year you see many things come into place, and you want to hold on to your children's faith, your own faith. You want to keep this household that you have that says I'm a Shia, says I'm a lover of Ahlul Bayt, and all of that, keep it intact, but it's very, very hard to do so, isn't it? So the Imam says that the time is lengthy. And then the Imam says, كأني بالشيعة يجولون جولان النعم في غيبته يطلبون المرعى فلا يجدونه ألا فمن ثبت منهم على دينه ولم يقس قلبه لطول أمد إمامه فهو معي في درجتي يوم القيامة. Imam al-Baqir said he gets the reward of 1,000 of the martyrs of Badr and Hunayn. Here Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says he has the level of me in paradise. Who? The Shia, the real, who? Follower of Imam al-Hujjah in this time. The one who keeps his faith intact. He doesn't lose it. He doesn't say, well, life has moved on. How many times you see that qabih becomes normal? Qabih, a sin, because of its toll that it takes, it becomes normal. Normal. You can talk about anything, I remember in one of the cities, a Muslim Shia city, very, very holy city, there was a wedding. I remember, and I was very young. In that wedding, they played music. That was the first time they played music in a wedding. All right? People danced. Some people, they got angry, and they eventually turned it off. They said, turn it off. It's haram. Don't do that. And they turned it off. And years passed. That was the first one. The second one happened. Music, again, was played. The third one, fourth one, fifth, sixth. Now, if you go to that same city, it's a necessity to have music. If you tell them, don't put any music, they tell you, what's this, Fatiha? What do you have? Did someone die? Do we have to sit down and weep? This is a beautiful event. We have, celebration. People are getting married. We have to listen to that. Qabih becomes what? Becomes normal. Haram becomes normal. So just think of it. And unfortunately, this is a holy city. A ma'soom is buried there. Yet, a haram act has become what? Something normal. They normalized it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said even about this. He said, in the end of time, they don't do amr bil ma'roof wa nahi al munkar. But they don't enjoin good and forbid evil. And they don't do any of that. The Sahaba, the companions, they said, how can this be, Ya Rasulullah? For them, it was very strange. It was a shock. Rasulullah said, this is not a shock. I'll give you a bigger shock. You want to be shocked? I'll give you a bigger one. They said, what happens, Ya Rasulullah? And he's talking about the future. Rasulullah says about their future. For us, it's present right now. Rasulullah said, what's ajib and what's shocking is that the ma'roof takes the place of the munkar, and the munkar takes the place of the ma'roof. People see the ma'roof as munkar, and they vice versa. And tell me right now, isn't this happening right now, today? Tell me if this is happening or not. Maybe I'm from a different town or different country or different language or different background. You might tell me, this guy, I don't know what he's talking about. But this is what's happening right now. Ma'roof is becoming a munkar, and munkar is becoming a ma'roof. That's why the Imam says, the one who stays ثبت منهم على دينه, he stays on this path, on this religion. And the Imam says, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, وَلَمْ يَقْسَ قَلْبُهُ, and his heart doesn't become hard. Doesn't become hard. That means he rejects religion. He rejects it, one after the other. Why? Because of this. Because throughout the year, he's intaking all of that haram, all of that sins, all of that is coming into his soul. Suddenly you tell him, tomorrow we have Laylatul Qadr. You think this person is going to sit down and cry for his sins? It's very hard for that person. Because throughout the year, he's doing something else. Throughout the year, it's like for a person who eats whatever he finds, whatever. He eats whatever he sees, he's entitled to it. He eats whatever he desires. He gains all that weight, and then you tell him, right now go on the treadmill and run for about, half an hour. Can that person do that? If he does that, he vomits everything out. Why? Because he's been doing all that time. He's intaking all of that. Same thing applies for a sinner who takes all of these sins and he applies it on himself and on his children and on that. And then suddenly he sees, I lost the way. I went to a different path and it's too late for me now to come back. Unfortunately, this is in case someone really goes into this path and he doesn't look ahead. And he has to be alert. He has to be really alert, because a person cannot say, it's for moments I can teach myself and I'm done. Until the last minute. There is a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam that says, Shaitan stays with you. And when they say Shaitan, means one of the sons of Shaitan stays with you until your last breath. He waits for you to not say La ilaha illallah. And he says, until then I'm with you. But when you say, or you don't say it, he's there with you. Your soul leaves your body, he then goes and he finds someone else. But the Rasulullah says, he doesn't leave you until that moment. Why is it there then? Just to be there? No, to read down in your ears, read down in your soul. Don't say La ilaha illallah. Don't say that. Don't until your last breath. And then the Imam says, this is the last of this hadith. ثم قال إن القائم منا إذا قام لم يكن لأحد في عنقه بيعة فلذلك تخفى ولادته ويغيب شخصه. So a person really has to get ready for this. I was listening a couple of days ago about, the World Cup, and they're talking about how Qatar can take care of this. One of the Qataris came out on Instagram and he was saying 12 years we've been getting prepared for this event. 12 years. When an event is coming ahead for you and you look forward for that event, you prepare yourself. Now this is the major event. There is nothing bigger than that. And that's the coming of the Imam al-Hujjah. Alayhi afdhalu salati wassalam. Allah hasten his reappearance. But if we don't really look into what we need from preparing myself, when he comes, it's too late. And a person has to look at the door. Is like Yaqub. Jacob was looking at the door waiting for Yusuf to come back. How he was crying day and night. And he was waiting, counting minute after minute. Where is my Yusuf? Where is my son? That's what he was saying. If someone invites a guest to his house for dinner, that person goes home, he tells his wife, we have someone coming, Fulan is coming in 2-3 days. What do? They prepare the house. They buy the groceries, they clean up the house, waiting for that guest to come. Imam al-Hujjah is our guest. He might come any day. Have we prepared ourselves? Have we prepared our lives, our homes? I'm not talking about vacuuming or go buying his grocery. Have I cleaned down this spirit of mine, this ruh of mine from all sins, that the Imam says, yes, he's one of my companions. Yes, he's one of the elites. Yes, he's one of my followers. Looking down into this hadith, you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all of this reward. ألف شهيد من بدر وحنين. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says that he's in the same level as me in paradise. All of that is encouragement for a person to really look ahead how to prepare themselves for the coming of the Imam عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم عجل فرجه سهل مخرجه اجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه يا رب العالمين. Recite this dua with me, even the young ones. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك. اللهم اجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا. الفاتحة قبلها الصلاة على محمد وآله.